Hey gang, what's good? It's Wes. So let's say you've been browsing online and you decided to buy a brush pack or download a free one. Maybe you're on ArtStation Marketplace or Gumroad or QBrush or Flip Normals, and you see a brush pack that you really like the look of, whether it's for like Photoshop or Procreate, just really any of your favorite digital art suites, maybe has some custom brushes. And then you download them, you look at them, and they may not make much sense. You try to use them a little bit, you can't quite wrap your mind around what these are actually used for. So what this video is going to be is just a general breakdown of what I do whenever I get a brush pack. Kind of how I use them, how do I parse them, what sort of like management can I do to make sense of these brand new brushes. I mean, some brush packs I've had like 5 or 6 brushes. I've downloaded one, and we're going to look at it together, has over 2,500 brushes. So how do you wrap your mind around this? Are all of those usable? Like, what are we supposed to do with 2,500 brushes? Are you kidding me? And that's for one brush pack. So there's so many brushes out there. It can get a little overwhelming, especially if you're fairly new to digital art, or even if you're an experienced pro. You download brushes, and for whatever reason, they're either just not connecting with you, or it just doesn't make sense. What you see in like maybe the promo video or some of the promo images just doesn't correlate to how you're using the brushes. So what's going on? What can you do to kind of lessen that pain point, that learning curve of using custom digital brushes made by somebody else? So yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. So we are here inside of Photoshop. We actually have 3 different painting softwares open. I have Photoshop, I have Krita, and I have Clip Studio Paint. So yeah, essentially, whenever you get brushes, no matter kind of what program you're using, there's always going to be kind of a learning curve, simply for the fact that you did not make the brushes yourself. So the way the brushes feel is going to be something to get used to. The way they're set up is going to be something to get used to. There is the learning curve. Now, I do say my biggest recommendation, if you want brushes that feel exactly the way you want it, go ahead and make your own brushes. So this is not what this tutorial is. Like, maybe later on in the year, we can talk about making a brush from scratch and doing all that fun stuff. It is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. It's rewarding, but there's a lot of mechanics to it. But I think in order to really get the most out of that later in the year, I think we can just talk about categorizing and managing brushes that we already have. Now, I know a lot of people in the comments, and I agree with this to a certain extent. Well, you don't need a ton of brushes. You only need the hard round brush and maybe a soft brush, and you can make anything you want. And that's true. Technically that is absolutely correct. You can make the Mona Lisa with a ballpoint pen. You could, but why would you? I think brushes are a great way to add variety and a little bit of spice to your workflow. And anything that gets you wanting to paint is good. So if a new brush pack gets you excited to open up your software and play around, do it. Like, get it. It's totally true. You don't even have to spend money. There's free brush packs out there. I have one. They're free. Like, you get it, and it adds some excitement and some freshness to your workflow. It makes you think about things differently. It's exciting. People that say that brushes don't matter, I don't necessarily agree with them. I think they do, but not for the reason that they think. I don't think they're necessary to make good art. You can make good art with anything. But I do think they're necessary to keep things fresh. Just change the way you look at the world, and a new set of brushes could do that. But anyway, before we get into kind of the mechanics of each individual software and how to manage and kind of my best tips and tricks for this side of the coin, I want to talk about, 3 main things to keep in mind, no matter what your brush pack is, no matter what software you're using. This is for everything. These are things to keep in mind that will make your process of learning your new brushes easier, okay? So the first things first, this one sounds really obvious, but you have to ask yourself, so step number one, whenever you first get your brushes in, why did you download this particular brush pack to begin with? Why did you get it? Is it because it has really cool like traditional paint brushes and you like that? Or is this really good for concept art? Or are these better, like, are they good pastels or crayons? Why did you feel the need to download this specific or whatever specific brush pack? You know what I mean? That's going to help answer some of your questions. So if you have a favorite illustrator and let's say you love the way they work and they work at Pixar or they used to work, for Disney or they work at Nickelodeon and you love the very abstract shapes it might have, just for example. While you're going through the brushes and you're kind of putting them through their paces, keep that goal in the front of your mind. Does this achieve the look I'm after? Does this help me, put me in the right mindset to work with abstract shapes? Or does this remind me of a Nickelodeon show or a Pixar movie? Or like, always frame it with your goal in mind. Now that sounds really obvious, but I'm actually I have my brush pack. We'll talk about my brush pack here in a little bit. Let me go ahead and load the one I mentioned in the opening. One of my favorite artists is Lee Shin Yin. He's an incredible painter. He's worked on a whole bunch of stuff. Beautiful. Now you see, my brush pack has 70 brushes, and this is how big the scroll bar is. Now while this is loading, while his brush pack is loading, just keep your eye on this scroll bar right here. So, basically, good example, I downloaded Lee Shin's brush pack because I love the way he paints. And I wanted to see, hey, if I get some of these brushes, will I be able to maybe put some of these effects down or some of these textures that he gets? Like, yeah, now look at this scroll bar. So I counted, this brush pack has over 2,600 brushes just from this one. Because, and if you don't believe me, we can scroll down, scrolling down. So yes, like, no one ever needs this many brushes. I guarantee you Lee Shin maybe uses 100 of these, but he has the library. He has the library of brushes. He can use it. He can add variety. Some of them might even be duplicates and repeats, but they might have slight tweaks to them. But anyway, so whenever I opened up this bad boy and I was staring down the barrel of 2,600 brushes, I basically took the next 2 days off of whatever my work schedule was as far as commissions or whatever. And I just went in and literally was like, what's this brush do? Let me get this brush. See, and the brush pack's so big, it actually kind of lags out my computer a little bit. Oh man. Yeah, Photoshop is freaking out right now. Oh my gosh. It might crash on us actually. Okay, there we go. So now it's loading up. There we go. We have this. Let me get a white brush in here. Let me get onto this layer. And what I would literally do is come and make one mark. Come on. Man, this is the other thing. You don't want to get super huge brush packs because like it is genuinely going to crash out some stuff. There we go. Okay. I would come in and I would make a separate layer and I would do a sketch line, a sketch line, a sketch line, a sketch line, pick a brush, a sketch line, pick a brush, a sketch line, 2,000 whatever many times. Okay. This is not responding at all. Oh my gosh. So, but yes, I did do that. Yes, I am a madman. That is just how that works. So I would go in and I would do that and I would look and be like, are these brushes interesting or are they kind of similar to brushes I'm already familiar with? And then I would basically say yes or no. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And as I'm working, if a brush is automatically a no, wow, it just now put that line there. That was what, half a minute ago? Let's say, oh, there we go. Let's say I didn't like this one. I would actually come down here and hit the delete button. Delete this brush. Okay. For every single one I didn't want. An easier way you can do this, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, there's something called the preset manager. So while you're in, and this is in Photoshop, I think this has been a standard since like CS6 is what I'm using right here. Maybe CS3, but basically this is a big, more holistic view of the brushes and how they are. This is where you can actually drag and drop and reorganize. Like, let's say I want to move this brush, and I like where this other circle brush is. I can just drag this and it changes the order. And then whenever you're done, you hit done. So for instance, if I come up top here and let's say, you know, this AS5, you ever hover over this, AS5, then this should be sample brush 812 is the second one. And then we hover over sample brush 812. Okay, cool. So this is showing you the order in descending order. So let's say I wanted to move, which one is this one? The sample brush, what is that, a B or an 8? One, which is this one right here. Let's say I want to move this to be second. And then if you keep your eye over here, whenever I hit done, it changes it in real time. You know, or once I confirm it, I guess. So that's a quick organizational way to do that type of thing. But just keep in mind, whenever you get a brush pack, especially one of this size, the very first question and the one thing on your mind is this actually going to help me? I'm all about brush hoarding. I'm all about getting the stuff and just collecting it and having it like Gollum in the Ring and like, yes, my precious. Like, and you have these things. That's a weird Gollum, by the way. I don't know where he's from. But you have these brushes and like, are these going to help me? Am I ever going to use this brush? And just be honest with yourself. And the nice thing is, you know, even if you paid money for the brushes, they're yours. So like, you can mess with them, you can manipulate them, you can delete them and reinstall them, and like, just don't worry about it. Just go in and be like, is this a good brush for me? Yes or no. The second thing you want to ask yourself, or not necessarily ask yourself, but something you want to keep in mind is, let's say you end up liking one of the brushes. And let's say we have this brush right here, and then I use it and I'm like, all right, come on. God, it's going to take forever. Oh my God. You'll also notice that Clip Studio and Krita don't act this way. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, Photoshop and Adobe. Yeah, I'll go out and say it. I've had real bad luck with Adobe lately. I even have the new Creative Cloud stuff, and like, it's crashed. I can't remember the last time Krita or Clip Studios crashed. Hell, even Corel Painter never crashed. Never had it crash, not once. Photoshop crashes all the time. So what am I paying you for, Adobe? But so we have, yeah, okay, let's say once this brush actually makes a mark, let's say I love that brush. The next thing I'm going to ask is, what would I love it for? Oh, well, this brush would be really good to add texture to armor. Or this one would be good to fill in a big space as an underpainting. And I'm mentally gonna categorize that. I'm gonna categorize that as either like, is this a pre-planning brush? Is this a sketch brush? Is this a thick paint brush? Is this a good like smudger brush? Is this a good palette knife? So you can ask the big questions. You can be like, okay, what style is this brush? For instance, is this a big idea brush? Is this, oh, this is just like a traditional oil painting brush? Or you can get to the nitty gritty and be like, this would be great to add like seams onto the undershirt of a medieval like armor thing. You can talk details, you can talk specifics. Hey, is this a good special effects brush? Would this be good if somebody's like doing a summoning or something and you see the magic around them? Would this work really well in one of those blending modes? Just keep that stuff in mind and mentally categorize it as you go through it. And then kind of the third thing, and this kind of correlates with the second point of categorizing. Order matters. Okay, and what do I mean by that? I am gonna, there we go. What in the world? Okay, order does matter. So you see here, a lot of this stuff, like on Leashins, it just says like sampled tip 1, sampled tip 2, sampled tip 3. These don't mean anything at all. Like sample tip, I think literally means that they took they created a brush based off of a texture, and then they kept it as the default name. So he made 3 of these brushes using the same texture head or the same brush head, and then he just kept them the same name. So it said 1, 2, and 3, so they wouldn't overlap each other. So for instance, okay, so this looks like kind of a good chalk brush, right? So if I were to come in and like, for real, why is just, I know my tablet's working because like the pen is moving the stuff around. What is happening? Okay, let me swap out my pen. That might be part of it. Let me do that. Maybe Photoshop's just mad at me for whatever reason, which is maybe, nope, still even my backup pen. Okay. We're gonna get out of Photoshop here in a second and just not even mess with it. But that's why you'll see something called like sample tip 1, sample tip 2. So let's say we see this as like a thick chalk brush. The first thing I would do, instead of sampled tip 1, I would double click thick chalk brush 1. Then let's say, okay, here's the first one. We're gonna come in here, we're gonna do this. Now let's try number 2 and see if anything is different. Well, it's a little noisier on the sides. That's kind of the difference I'm seeing. See that little texture stuff, and it goes kind of outside the lines a little bit. If I put like thick chalk brush messier in parentheses, I know that these are going to be fairly close because the name is the same, but then this one's just going to have a little bit messier edge. I'm going to know what it means. No one else really needs to know what it means, if that makes sense. And then, with sample tip 3, we come over here. This one looks more like a liner brush, but since it's part of the same series, I might put, thick chalk brush, and in parentheses, put the word liner. Now I'm going to know what the difference is. Now, whenever I look at these actually make sense. This is a thick chalk brush, and it's the first one in the set. This is now the messier version of that brush, and then this one is a liner version that has a similar texture. So using all 3 of these brushes together will be cohesive. Does that make sense? Like, it's a mental filing cabinet. That's the way I like to see this. This is your filing cabinet. Your brush preset window is your filing cabinet. I'm actually going to do a cheap pop on my my brush pack. So this is my newest brush pack. I'll have a link to this in the description, called Wes Gardner's Brush Pack 2022. I actually follow all of the rules I just said for you guys. So I've categorized my brushes into different categories. I mean, these are going to be different subsections. And what I actually like to do is I get a standard hard round brush and turn it to a size 1, or something small, like the brush doesn't matter, because in my opinion it's kind of a throwaway brush. And you can see here I just called it basic. This is the header, and see how it's formatted different. I put the little lines, kind of little dash marks there to kind of make it look like the old school ASCII sort of title header. This is a way that at a quick glance, you can see what category you're in. So, my basic brushes, so my hard round, my soft round, kind of a diagonal, like texture block ends, and blah, 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 all this stuff. Everything you might need for your generic digital painting is going to be here under the basics. These are like your basics. Then the ones that I really liked for this year, for this year's brush pack, I put here, like stuff based on John Singer Sargent. So if it didn't fit in any other specific category, but I still wanted to highlight it and showcase it, I put it under 2022 specials. Then my sketch and charcoals. So all my charcoals can be here, like different types and different feels, all that, like a mechanical pencil. You see how I do the parentheses. It's reminded me of a mechanical pencil once I was using it. And I was like, oh, that's what it feels like. So I put it there. Now, if you use it and you think it feels more like a ballpoint pen, like with a gritty texture, put that, double click it, change the name. Like, feel free to make these your own, you know what I mean? And then basically all my impasto oils. But you notice, because they have the commonality of looking like thick paint, like if I come over here and I kind of do this type of thing, and then I do like a and you can see where I will put all right, come on, there we go. So like the thicker brush strokes with a little bit of color variance and stuff like that. I wanted to put all of these in a similar category just to make it easier. And then like Painterly Tradigital, I can't remember who made that comment last year on whenever I was talking about traditional painting and digital painting and merging the two, but this is a perfect example of that. Tradigital brushes, so like they will remind you of, they don't feel quite as traditional as the impasto brushes, but they are very much made in the style of traditional stuff. They still feel like digital paintbrushes, instead of like mixing around the impastos with the, you know, wets and the dries and a little bit more freeform. I don't know. And that's the other thing. Whenever you use brushes, you have to feel them. You can only read about them. You can only watch videos about them. You have to put them through their paces. In order to get a good, accurate read on how they're going to fit in your workflow, you have to use them. You have to use them. And then, but I do that, and then, so we have the Painterly Tradigital, and then gimmick brushes. So if I want something that looks like a Craig Mullins texture, I'll grab a, you know, Mullins texture 1. I can bring that in. Mullins texture 2, bring that in. Let's say I have Richard Anderson flat traps, a rake brush that he would use. Like I have one just called, it's a modification of that called Dirty Rake. Just that same type of brush, but a little bit more gritty, a little bit more see-through. So on these, I just didn't really know where else to put them, so I called it gimmicks, you know, but you can see the categories. And that was really important for me. Another thing, I don't know if you noticed this, I categorize my brushes in order that I would use them. So if I were to start on a painting, you know, I'm gonna usually start with the sketch and the charcoal. So like if I'm doing line art, let me see if my actual pen will work with my brushes. What is happening with Photoshop? Photoshop, see, it's like reversing what my touch input is. Okay, yeah, I'll have to close out. But so I would start with a kind of a charcoal under painting type stuff, and then impastos, I even did that as well. So within categories, I've done that. So like my sketcher brush, then my canvas underpainting, then my dry canvas filler. So if I have an underpainting right here, and then I wanted to fill in a little bit more, dry canvas filler, you can see how it's a little bit more opaque. Then we use like oil with liquid, we have there, and then the same brush but a round version of the brush. And then let's do some dry brushes for some cool variants. Then let's get a palette knife. I can even change it to the smudge tool. Palette knife, the strength can be at 51%. Kind of do this type of deal. Then I can bring it back to the brush mode. Use the palette knife, get some really cool looking, just rough texture there. So you see what I mean? It's in order that I would use them, and it lets me keep track of where I'm at in my piece. Yeah, those are the three main things. So I would say keep in the front of your mind why you have the brushes in the first place. Then go ahead and categorize mentally where you would use the brush. Like, what kind of brush is this? Is it a paint brush? Is it a special effects brush? A detailing brush? And then go ahead and actually do a category system of some sort, something that you can easily remember. That way, once you load up the brushes, you know exactly where you're at. You're good to go. So yeah, with that being said, bye-bye Photoshop. We will not miss you in the slightest. But yes, that preset manager is going to be down there on that bottom part. That's where you're going to be able to go and drag around brushes and things like that. You can also do it inside of your brush panel, but it's kind of clunky. And also, speaking of clunky, Clip Studio Paint does this a little bit differently as well. So each category has a set of subtools, right? And you'll see the subtools up here. And I am a big fan of Ray Frenden's brush packs. Ray Frenden makes over 1,000 brushes for Clip Studio Paint. I bought it whenever it had like 600 in there, and he's kept adding to it, which is amazing. But it's a lot of brushes. So I actually got a comment, ironically, as I already had filmed the opening to this episode, and I got a comment from a viewer saying, hey, I just got Clip Studio Paint. How in the world do you organize these brushes? I love Frenden's brushes, but there's so many of them. That system's so clunky in Clip Studio. How do you do this? So this is for you, my friend, and really for everybody. So you'll see here that we have our subtool right here. We're in our pen tool, and then we have this right here. Let's say I really love, and this is true, I really love the Holly inker brushes. And see, that's what's supposed to happen when I use my stylus, by the way. Thanks, Clip Studio. But you can see each one of these Howler Inker Dry, Inker with Rot, Inker just standard. So there's 3 of those. And they each have a different feel, but they're in the same thematic wheelhouse. What I'm gonna do is make a new subtool of just these. And the way I'm going to do that, let's say I'm going to go straight up to Holly Inker right here. I'm going to click and drag up, and you see this red line right here? I'm going to come and make a red line right next to between where it says Frenden and marker, and I'm going to let go. This created a new subcategory with the name of the brush, but it also has the brush included. You see what I mean? So I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to select this one, the Inker Dry. I'm going to drag, but instead of it going next to, I'm going to hover over the Howley subtool that we made. And you notice how it turned into a red square? Go ahead and then release, click. Now both of those are in this same category. Then I'm going to bring the third one in, the Inker with Rot, move it in there. Perfect. So we have this, and let's say Holly Inker, that's fine for the category name, but let's say we wanted to change that name. I can right click, go to Subtool Group Settings, and then change the name here. Holly Set. Hit OK. Boom. So the name is Holly Set, but it did not change any of the names of the brushes. So you'll notice that it actually removed them from the big master list, which I'm fine with, and then created its own subcategory. If you wanted to keep them in a subcategory, or if you wanted to keep them in the main category here under the Frenden panel, but also make a subcategory, you can always, let's say we're going to do the same thing with Hatcher. You can always go here, and if you right click, you can say duplicate subtool. And then it's going to give you, hey, you can name it. It's going to have these, settings. What do you want to carry over? You hit OK. It's going to add it to the very bottom here. Now, this is where I'm going to take this copy of the brush, drag it up, create a new subcategory, and do the same method, if that makes sense. So you'll actually see I did that a lot with my brush tool. There we go. So I've done that a lot. I have the Frenden set, another Frenden set, but then you can see I had Howley, the actual brushes right here. I've done his painterly brushes where he has the oils, and I even added some. So there were some other like Clip Studio defaults for the oil brushes that I really liked. So I just put them over to the painterly subcategory. And I put Frenden there. That way I could remember these were made by Ray Frenden. So then, yeah, I did the whole set here. That way, anytime I need more of a painterly brush, let's say, oh, I need one with gesso. I come to painterly gesso, I do this, and then I'm like, oh, the painterly flat brush, I need that flat brush. Let me go over here. Where's one of the blenders? Canvas, painterly blender. We have something like that. I'm gonna change the size. Great looking blends. Now let's say I need it a little bit more like a wet brush. Kind of come here based on opacity, and it kind of does that nice wet blend there. And then I'm gonna go into paper dry, hit these sides to really bring out some of that. You see what I mean? I can quickly do this. And then let's say, oh, I need to have that Howley brush because I know I've used it so much. I know that it's gonna be a good one. Let me go in the flow brush right here. Let me bring that up. Let me bring some of this in. Oh, and then we're gonna do the mixer rake brush. I like that one a lot. And you can see a lot of my custom brushes that I make for Photoshop kind of mimic some of the best brushes that Friendin has made. I just love them. Oh, a nice mixer brush right here. So we can kind of come in and sort of hit this area here. So you see what I mean? Like I can just go back and forth between the subtools. Okay, like Darkan, one of my favorite artists, imported his stuff. I imported some of my older brush packs right here. So yeah, I have some of these, that way I can kind of play around with them. And then even the standard brushes are great. So let's say I wanted the acrylic with acrylic and water, it's more washed out, kind of bring it in through the edges here to soften it up. You know, perfect. I know exactly where those tools are. And really, I'm looking for the brush based on its use case. Once again, that's that mental categorization. Why am I using this brush? What do I need it for? It has to solve a problem. At the end of the day, brushes are just tools. So what tool is the right tool for the job that you're currently doing? And to make it easier on yourself, that's where things like these subcategories can come in. Now that we looked at Clip Studio, let's look at Krita. Krita is, so it's funny, you're either going to have the method that works like Photoshop, the method that works like Clip Studio with the subtool categories, or you're going to have a method that works a lot like Krita where you can tag things. I know Corel Painter uses more of this tag system that we're going to look at. But yeah, and like PaintStorm Studio uses more of the subtool category system like how Clip Studio is. So you're going to see your main digital paint softwares are going to have different ways in which they separate their brushes. Yeah, Procreate is kind of a hybrid of a Clip Studio and a Photoshop to where it's subcategory by intent. So like a sketch section, a paint section. You can import brushes, make your own custom favorites list, but you can also make a custom tag, much like Krita. So let's say I have every tool right here at my disposal that Krita comes started with. Now you can actually come here and there's already one called My Favorites as a default. So let's say I really like the basic 2 opacity and I want to assign it to the tag My Favorites. Awesome. Now if I go and on this brush preset panel, if I go down to My Favorites, you can actually see I've already added some, but that's cool. So you have a favorites list. But let's say you wanted to have a custom one. Let's say you wanted one and you just wanted it just for, you know, there's one called Paint, there's RGBA brushes, your sketch brushes. But let's just say, okay, I want to find my brushes that I know I'm going to use all the time, but I don't want to crowd up my favorites list. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create a new tag and call it like West 2022. And then I'm going to hit the plus button. Tag with this, do you want to replace it? So I already did this just to test it before recording. So yeah, I'm gonna replace and overwrite the tag. Then you're gonna see in this drop down list in alphabetical order, bam, West 2022, right there. We got that. So let's say I love this brush. I love the basic 2 brush. So first I'm going to assign this to West 2022. I also need a good pencil brush. So let's do Pencil 2 2022. There. I like the wet paint brushes a lot. Yeah, these are all my favorites anyway. So let's say I'm definitely going to use that one. So right click, West 2022. Then I'm going to go to, yeah, the Blender Basic. Sounds fine. It's like a Q-tip. Assign West 2022. Now if I come up here, change this category to West 2022. There you go, basic to opacity. I have 2 of them actually. So I can do this, and then I can remove from this tag, remove from other tags if they're part of other tags. So the tagging system works pretty well. It's like a filter system. I'm gonna remove that one from the tag. So yeah, now you can see I have my brushes here. So yay, basic 2. And then let's come over. I'm gonna sketch over that. Perfect. Then we have that nice wet paint right there. Feels a little bit different than the basic 2 opacity, but then we're gonna get that blender. We're gonna blend some of these edges, make it look real artsy fartsy right there. Okay, but you get it, right? So once again, you're gonna categorize. Then I believe what you can do, is there a way to drag and drop and resort them? I think there might be. Display thumbnails. Maybe not. I don't know. I could have sworn that there was. Maybe I have to like hold a button. Whoop. I just right click menued. Wet paint. Or maybe, I wonder if I wonder if it's by alphabetical. So let me check that. Let me just call this Blender Basic. Was it not? Let me rename it. Oh, maybe not, because it's actually coming to, let me check something real quick. So if this is in the all, it's under Blender Basic. Can I rename it here, or is there maybe another settings, toolbars, Dockers, brush preset history, manager? I don't know. If there is a way, I'm wondering if there's a way to rename this brush. I think there, I mean, I know there is, there has to be, right? Because there's a brush setting menu right here. Oh, yeah, duh. Let me see if it actually makes the change globally or based on your filter, because that's a good thing to know. Let's go to West 2022. Let me change this to just be Blender Basic. So I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna click that, I'm gonna click this little edit button up here. Blender Basic. I'm gonna hit save. Save new brush preset. Okay. And then we'll save it. Sure. Okay. Got that. Oh, that's actually just a copy of it. So, really? So it's called Blender Basic. Let me check something. Let me just swap. So the K is still there. Text. Auto. Oh, I think there's an overwrite brush preset. Okay. So yeah, here's some real-time stuff for you. This just goes to show every software is going to be slightly different. I have so many art softwares. Perfect example, while I'm actually thinking about it, let me open up Corel Painter 2021 and show you that one as well. I should have had it open already. But you'll see, it's all about finding the way in which the piece of software can kind of relay the information back to you. So whether it's through categories, whether it's through kind of a filter or a tag system, whether it's just kind of a drag and drop thing. I know some Procreate stuff, you can actually just do really cool drag and drop, and that's a lot of fun. But knowing the intent of why you're using the brushes is going to be paramount. It's going to make all of the other decision making way easier. And name it things that you remember. I mean, even if you have, like, let's say you have a subtool just for pencils and you want to rank them, like, this is my #1 pencil. This is the one I always use. This is my favorite. This one's #2. I have 5 brushes. I'm going to put them in order. Name them #1, #2, #3, #4, #5. If that's going to be a way that resonates with you and it allows you to quickly find the tool that you need because you just know the ebb and flow and the nuance of how the brush feels, go for it. You know what I mean? Whatever works for you. I used to work at a college and I would teach professional development. And I would always talk about, people would talk about, well, how should I make my Outlook calendar? That's a vague question, man. Do it however you want. You can color code things. You can name it random stuff. You can, however your brain works. Some people work better with numbers. Some people work better with letters, alphabetical, reverse alphabetical, by last name. However you sort things, that is your system. And you don't really need to change it. You might need to nuance it and kind of wiggle it around to get it working with your certain tool set that you're using. But the frame of mind and your reference of learning and remembering information, that's your most powerful asset. And that's going to help your workflow fly. So I'll also, while this is loading up, I'll also talk about kind of industry standard software. And while it's true there are some softwares that are industry standard, meaning that studios prefer using it in their workflow for whatever reason. So like Adobe Photoshop's one, Maya is one. This is just either they've already bought a license for 10 years and so they're going to use it. Or let's say with Adobe, they have the Creative Cloud, so everything talks to each other already and you can work cross departmentally, whatever. While that's all well and good, make sure, like whenever you're at work, let's say, and this is for definitely more of the pros in the audience, that you can go ahead and manipulate your stuff or your UI or your stuff to make it yours. You're going to work better. You're going to work faster. It's going to be more of a pleasant experience. If you're just a hobbyist or even a professional that doesn't work in a studio, if you're a freelancer, jack up your stuff, man. Go ahead and just make it exactly the way you want it. Because it's not like, well, now I need to go to this office and use their version of Photoshop. No, odds are pretty good. Either you're going to be able to like import your UI, or you can even take your, like if you have a laptop or an iPad or whatever, they're going to work with you. You know what I mean? So work the way that you like. Let's actually close out reference image. Let's do file new. Yeah, that's fine. I don't even know what that default is. Okay. So let's say we have our brushes. We're on our brush panel and we have this. Oh yeah, I did make a category. So you can see it's kind of the same way that the Krita filters were. So you have like in your impastos, and then you have oils, and then your palette knives and your sponges. But I went in and I made Wes faves, right? I went through every single brush in the software and picked the ones that I like the best. I'm actually going to be doing a review. I know this is the old version now, but I'm going to do kind of a relook at Painter, and be excited for that one, because have I changed my mind? Who knows? So let's see, we have this, we have, that's the real pencil. Let's do the real flat opaque brush right here. So you can kind of come through, and yeah, just kind of go through my my favorites here and kind of do the stuff. So in order, let's say I wanted to add something to my favorites, I can come over here. Let me go to the Sargent collection. Let me go to, let's say we'll do the stencil flow map right here. I'm going to click on it. Oh, I'm going to click on it. Actually just selects it, but I'm going to click on it. I'm going to right click, and then I am going to copy variant. Okay. So, you can either save a variant, and I think it overwrites this one. But if you copy the variant, it's going to ask you, where do you want to copy this brush to? Copy variant to, and now as I click this down, you can see, hey, blenders, chalk, dab pencils, digital watercolor. I scroll all the way down. I go to Wes Faves. I click it, hit OK. Now, next time I go to Wes Faves, I think it's in alphabetical, or no, or maybe it still is. So yeah, there it is in Wes Faves. And I think any changes I make to this in this category only apply to this category. They're not global changes. So yeah, just a quick little, yeah, it shows new brushes added. I got my flow map brush right here. Great. So I want to add a little bit of that cool texture for whatever reason. I got that. So yeah, quick overview of now 4 different pieces of software and how to manage those brushes. Really, it's going to be up to you. It's a very personal thing. It's very much the same way. If you're going to have your favorite type of ink pen to write with. You're going to have your favorite type of pencil to sketch in your sketchbook with. You're going to have your favorite brand of acrylic paints and oil paints. Do you prefer water soluble, or okay, so for your real brushes, do you like synthetic, or do you like hog bristle, natural brushes, hog hair, sables? Do you like filbert brushes or flats or a mixture, or do you like bright brushes? Or this is where you as an artist starts to come through, and even not just the colors you pick or what you like to paint, but what tools you like to use. That is going to define you as much as any other part of making art. And that's why finding a system that works for you is paramount, I think. It's one of the first learning curves that you're going to have to learn whenever doing digital art. But it's always something you can revisit and repurpose, even as you get further and further in your hobbyist career or your professional career. It's exciting. It's fun. There's always new brushes. They always bring up new ideas. And nowadays, softwares come out all the time and they have different brush engines. And it doesn't ever stop, but that's a good thing. I think that it helps everybody evolve. It helps everybody grow as an artist. But it also helps these software companies grow as well, because they get to learn from their mistakes. If something on one brush engine, I can tell you, this might be a little spoiler, but I hated Corel Painter 2019. I just didn't like using it. However, Corel Painter 2021, very much it is growing on me. It doesn't seem like it would be that different, but it is. There's small tweaks and changes. But yeah, we'll do that full review video probably in the next month or so. But anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope you found something that you can kind of take with you. I know it's more of a general lesson than anything, but I hope you saw something in here that could be helpful. If you have a way that you like to organize, let us know in the comments, because maybe the way that you found works best for you is also going to help another artist out there. Maybe they're struggling with how I can't find the brushes and what brush was I using before, and where can I put these that way I know exactly where they're at all the time, or I can't quite find the right brush. Does anyone have any brush set recommendations? I do have my new brush set out. The link is going to be in the description. It comes with 70 brushes in .abr mode, so it works natively in Photoshop, but you can also install it in stuff like Procreate and Clip Studio Paint. You can bring them in. I'm making specific versions for those softwares, but those will be out later this year. That's something kind of on the back burner now, but I am going to plan on it, and it's going to be free updates. So right now, the brush pack's only $4. I will have that in the description. It has thick oil paints, it has sketchers and charcoals. You saw them all before Photoshop crapped out on us. But anyway, hope you had fun. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. And until next time, I'm Wes Gardner. Go follow me on all the socials, all that stuff. And we will see you next time. Peace.